Hello, it's Nathan. Not here. Andrew, remember, is not here. I apologize. I think that my microphone, check, is just coming on. So you missed that piece about the diabetes. That's all right. So the pineal gland is producing what? What's the hormone it's producing? Melatonin. Have you all heard of this hormone before? Melatonin is a fairly common thing for folks to hear it. Where do you hear about it? Like in what setting? Okay, so you're thinking of melanin, which is the pigment of your skin. It's a different something. This is melatonin. Sleep, right. So the main thing melatonin regulates is the circadian rhythms of our body. This cycle that we go through on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And your body has a very rhythmic pattern to it. And the levels of melanin very much control that, helping us know when to be tired, when to be awake. Your blood pressure, your body temperature, the metabolism, all these things go through this cycle. And melatonin, I see your question, give me a second. Melatonin is what actually controls that piece. Has anybody ever traveled and gotten jet lag? One of the things they recommend you do is to take, you can actually get pills of melatonin. Right before you go to bed, an hour or so before you go to bed, you take this. That's basically telling your body, hey, it's time to sleep. It's time to chill. Are you with me? So it's not a drug that causes drowsiness, but it's trying to help your body get back into that regular circadian rhythm. And they found actually pretty solid success. About 50% of folks who take this find that it helps with that piece. Sir? I suppose you can always get dependent on anything. I have not heard any difficulty. It's not addictive. Like a lot of pills that make you sleepy have an addictive part to them, and I have not heard anything about that with melatonin. It was, exactly. I was going to mention that. That was one of the pieces that was just given Nobel Prize, was talking about some specifics of that in the cell. Yeah. Definitely. So in other words, not just your whole body has a circadian rhythm, but individual cells themselves have this cycle, this rhythm they go through. Yeah. Good question. Again, it's not everybody who it affects. Again, about 50% of folks, at least in the one study I had read, about 50% were noticing some changes, but no, unfortunately, for you, it didn't. It tasted gross. I guess I never tasted it. We have little pills. My wife uses them sometimes at home. Question?
Yeah, you know how some flu medicine will have it'll make you drowsy?
Yeah.
Does that have melatonin?
No. Usually these are different medications that cause drowsiness.
Are those ones the ones that you can get addicted
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Let's move on to the thymus gland. The thymus is in between the lungs, underneath the sternum, and that secretes the thymosins, which affects the production and differentiation of T lymphocytes. And we'll learn much more about the lymphocytes when we get into the immune system. But these are, so the thymus is what's actually helping you to produce the cells that fight against infections and bacteria and you getting sick. So the thymus plays a role, these hormones play a role in that production. If we continue on, the reproductive glands also secrete hormones. We'll talk much more about these guys when we get into the reproductive system in much more detail. The main hormones that are produced for guys are what? Testosterone. For ladies, estrogen and progesterone. Those are kind of your three big hormones in the sexual piece. Gonadotropin is another one that is produced as well on both sides. There is some aggressiveness to it, absolutely.
How does that, when does that happen?
Think about the difference between a 4th grader and a 7th grader in how they act. Yeah, there's definitely differences that come in. Again, it's not meaning you are all the time aggressive, but certainly the folks who are abusing it, let's say doing it for drugs to get bigger, they certainly had a much more hot temper, very quick to, yeah. Yeah, certainly. We cool here? Please, who? Yes. So you're speaking about this low T thing, low testosterone. There's a big push with drug companies over the last, let's say, 5-10 years to market to men, especially men over a certain age. Sure. So now that's a little different because you're talking about if they're doing some kind of sexual change. Because the levels of... No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. But it could be as their body's getting used to taking more of that, they could have some personality changes, absolutely. Yeah. But the low T piece, there's a lot of dubious research as far as that goes. Some folks think, oh no, it's really just a marketing thing. But there is certainly some people who have a lower level of that. And that causes a whole host of different problems. We'll talk more about this in the reproductive system, but difficulty with sexual activities, tiredness, fatigue, these kind of pieces. So it is an actual medical condition. Is it as prevalent as you need to see a commercial every time you watch football? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Let's move on. The digestive system, like you're in your stomach, there are digestive glands that secrete hormones that help you to process your food more. Again, when we go to the digestive system, we'll talk more about this. But there are hormones being produced there. Your heart has hormones that are produced that help secrete to make more blood cells. They help control that process. Yes? Erythropoietin? Is that what you're asking about? This is just the name of it. I would say just be comfortable the heart does produce hormones. With the what? This? Yes. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Stress and health. So they put this in here with the endocrine system because of cortisol, right? Cortisol is our stress hormone. And they wanted to make sure you know that having increased levels of that certainly can affect other pieces in your body. And they threaten the homeostasis. So many pieces, different types of stress. You have physical stress. I'm here on page 321 if you want to check along with me. Physical stress, things like that would be cold, heat, decreased oxygen concentration, infections, injuries, these kind of things. Psychological stressors would be fear or personal loss or danger, anxiety, grief. You with me? All of these things actually cause an increase in these stress hormones, particularly with cortisol as our stress hormone. Well, what does that do to you to have those levels elevated? Well, it threatens the survival of the tissues. Oh, sorry, this is what we just talked about. My apologies. The response to stress is this, that the response is it can mess up pieces in your body. Like you can literally have changes physiologically because of the stress that you deal with. And they broke it into kind of two categories, right? The immediate alarm stage and the long-term resistance stage. So the immediate response, you get the fight or flight preparation, right? It's like you're on that adrenaline piece, like you're on that, I'm in danger, right? And so all the things that go along with that, you get increased concentrations of blood glucose. Your heart beats faster, your blood pressure goes up, your breathing rate goes up, right? Again, like you're ready to fight or flight. That's that immediate stress response. But if you have that stress level stay up, if the cortisol levels continue to stay high, then you have what we call this resistance response. That again, your body's like, I see cortisol, but I'm not really gonna, it's not gonna cause the same response. But it does cause problems, right? They talk about this there on page 322, that you end up with significant changes to blood concentration, to how the body digests, how the brain thinks. There's big consequences to continued levels of stress. So making sure that we don't have that. This little chart here breaks down those kind of pieces. I'm not looking for the specific details of that piece. I just think you should be comfortable that there are those kind of two stages here of that stress response.
You don't have to know like the whole process.
I want you to be comfortable that you've got these two different pieces And if you could tell me a little bit about what they mean. That's where I'm going for there. I think there's more significant pieces than this guy. I don't have a slide that shows the endocrine system interacting with the rest of the body. That's there on page 323. This slideshow did not have that one in there. But I'm sure you've taken a look at that. As we've talked through the hormones, you've seen each of these hormones has a specific place in the body it affects, right? Certainly we talked about the skeletal system. How is the skeletal system affected by hormones? The calcium levels, right? That's a huge one. That whole feedback loop with the two different hormones, right? That are regulating how much calcium's there. The reproductive system, certainly these hormones that are involved there. So the key with these different system interactions would be the hormones. Questions there? Like I said, fairly quick piece today because we only had a little bit left. Yes, ma'am.
It's just kind of weird, like how, you know how like muscular system is like a bunch of like main parts or like the bone, but like endocrine is like a bunch of different random things.
Yeah. They're all tied into one system. Yeah, I would agree. Okay, what I'm going to do then, I'm going to give you, we've got about 15 minutes left. I'll give you this time. Let's stay here if we would. I don't think Mrs. Serrano is still working over on the other side, so we'll let you stay here. But if you have questions, you're studying, spend some time working here, okay? Go for it.